The city was quiet, too quiet for a world that used to be full of life. Dust floated in the air like forgotten memories. Buildings stood like empty skeletons under the faded sky. A single figure walked through the ruins, his boots crunching over. Broken glass and metal. His name was Raylan Ward, a former military scout turned scavenger. He hadn't seen another human in almost 4 months. He didn't talk anymore, not even to himself. What was the point? There was no one left to hear him. Earth had fallen fast when the Trinari invaded. Most of the population had been evacuated. Off-world, but some like Raylan soldiers, technicians, late responders got left behind. The AI core had promised to come back for them. But that was 3 years ago. Raylan now lived off what he could find: rations, tools, weapons. He avoided anything with movement. The machines left behind by the Trinari were still hunting. Silent drones, crawling metal spiders, floating orbs, with no mercy. The war was over, but the danger wasn't. He moved into an old comms tower, setting up his scanner. Every night, he checked for signals. Any kind. Sometimes he caught a faint ping from an old satellite. Sometimes just static. But tonight, something changed. The console lit up. His tired eyes locked onto the blinking screen. It wasn't human. It was AI language. And it was active. Raylan leaned forward, fingers shaking as he typed in the access codes he hadn't used since the war. The screen flickered, then came to life. A smooth, genderless voice echoed through the broken tower. Subject 009K, Raylan Ward. Status: survived. Condition: isolated. Directive: initiate companion protocol. He froze. Companion protocol? What was that? Your psychological profile indicates extreme loneliness, instability, and post-trauma silence. Solution: deployment of assigned partners. Raylan's jaw tightened. What partners? But the screen only blinked once more. A small map appeared on the display. Coordinates. The voice continued. ETA: 14 hours. Prepare shelter. Companions. En route. Then silence. Raylan stared at the screen, uncertain. It could be a trap. Maybe a leftover Trinari program designed to lure humans out. Or it could be real. Maybe the AI had finally remembered him. Maybe this was the last phase of the survival program. He didn't sleep that night. He stayed up with his rifle beside him, watching the skies, counting the seconds. At sunrise, a strange sound filled the air. It wasn't a drone. It wasn't a Trinari fighter. It was a shuttle. He sprinted up the tower stairs and grabbed the binoculars. A small pod was descending slowly, carefully guided by invisible beams. It landed in a cleared parking lot a few hundred meters away. Raylan hesitated only a moment, then moved out, rifle ready. He reached the pod in minutes. It hissed. Something was inside. He pointed his weapon at the door, chest rising and falling. Hatch opened. And then everything changed. 2 figures stepped out. Not human, but not fully alien either. Their skin shimmered faintly under the morning light. One was tall and silver blue, her eyes like polished crystal. The other was softer in appearance, with dark green skin and gold freckles that blinked like stardust. They were beautiful. Almost too beautiful. Like a dream formed by machines. They looked at him with gentle curiosity. Not fear, not anger. Raylan Ward, the silver blue one said. Her voice was clear, melodic. We have come as assigned. We are your companions. He didn't answer. Couldn't. The green-skinned one tilted her head. We were chosen by the AI core. Genetic compatibility and emotional data aligned. We're here to assist you, protect you, stay with you. Raylan slowly lowered the rifle, but his face was tight. You're not human. The silver-blue woman nodded. We are hybrids. created from peaceful alien DNA, combined with human understanding. We were designed to bond. Raylan didn't move for a while. He had spent years alone, hiding, surviving. The war had taken everything from him. And now, these two strange beings were offering something impossible. Company. Hope. He took a step back. Why now? The green-skinned one blinked. Because the AI finally deemed you two alone. He didn't know what to say. His voice cracked from underuse. What's your name? We don't have names yet, the Silver Blue said softly. Would you like to give us names? Raylan looked from one to the other. It felt unreal. Like a story someone else should be living, but the cold was real. The silence was real. And the ache in his chest that was real too. He lowered his head and whispered, Come with me. Raylan led them back to the tower in silence. His mind was a storm. The war had left him hollow, like a burned-out building still standing but empty inside. He had stopped hoping for rescue long ago. Now, these two strange companions walked beside him like pieces of a forgotten promise. They moved gracefully, not like soldiers or machines. Their steps were light, quiet. They scanned the broken streets with calm eyes, alert but not afraid. Raylan watched them from the corner of his eye. Neither looked like a threat, but that meant nothing. The Trinari had made monsters look like angels before. Inside the tower, he pointed toward the main floor. It's not much, he said, his voice dry. But it's safe, mostly. They stepped inside and looked around, heads tilting as if absorbing everything. The Silver Blue one touched the wall gently, running her fingers along the cold metal. The green-skinned one examined the console, her eyes glowing softly as she scanned its broken systems. Raylan finally sat down. So, he said, what exactly are you? The Silver Blue woman turned toward him. We were created by the Central AI on Mars. When the war ended and the Trinari pulled back, Project Companion was activated. It was designed for high risk. Survivors left behind on Earth. You are one of the last. Raylan scoffed. So I'm a charity case. No, the green one said, sitting across from him. You are the test case. The first one. That made him pause. First? The Silver Blue nodded. You were chosen because you have high resilience, strong instinct, but also deep emotional damage. The AI believes healing begins with connection. Raylan leaned back, jaw tight. You think I need therapy? We are not therapists, said the green one. We are partners, protectors, and if permitted, companions. Raylan didn't answer. He rubbed his eyes, then looked at them again. Do you even feel emotions? Or are you just machines in pretty skin? The Silver Blue sat beside him but kept a respectful distance. We are not machines. We were grown, trained, tested. Our emotions were created from real memories, yours and others. Pain, joy, fear. We understand what you feel. Maybe not fully, but enough to stand beside you. Her voice was soft. Not robotic, not fake. Raylan looked between them. He still didn't trust them, not yet. But something about their presence didn't set off his old instincts. They didn't smell like lies. What? Am I supposed to call you? He asked after a long pause. The green-skinned one smiled faintly. Choose what feels right, he pointed at her. You move like a scout. Fast eyes. I'll call you Lyra, she nodded. Lyra, I accept. Then he looked at the Silver Blue. Her gaze held something deeper, something steady. You? You feel like ice and fire at once, he said. Calm but sharp. How about Celine? The woman smiled. Celine, it is beautiful. Thank you. Lyra sat down beside him now, curious. We noticed your body is under strain. You're injured? Raylan pulled up his shirt a little, revealing an old wound that had never healed properly. Trinari drone got me 6 months ago. Couldn't find clean meds. Infection slowed, but it still aches. Celine stepped forward. May we assist? Raylan narrowed his eyes. How? Lyra tapped her belt and the small panel opened. She pulled out a thin medical device, nanosalve. It accelerates cell repair. We were equipped with basic health tools. He hesitated, then nodded. Solene knelt in front of him. It may sting. She applied the salve gently, her hand surprisingly warm. Raylan winced, but the pain quickly faded. A strange coolness spread through his side, followed by a wave of relief. Thanks, he muttered. Solene smiled again. We're here to help. The silence returned, but it wasn't heavy this time. It felt comfortable. Raylan stared at the cracked ceiling. So what now? You just stay with me forever? Lyra looked thoughtful. Only if you choose. We will not force connection. But we were made for long-term survival and bonding. Celine added, we will patrol with you, hunt, repair, and share warmth if needed. Raylan looked at them sharply. That last part, Lyra tilted her head. We know the human need for closeness. If it becomes part of the trust, we will follow your lead. He looked away. He wasn't ready for that. Not yet. But part of him, the part that had stopped dreaming long ago, wondered if this was what being human meant again. He stood up. Tomorrow, we'll scavenge the West District. There might be solar cells left. If you're really here to help, then let's get moving. Celine stood beside him. We will follow. Raylan gave them one more look. He was still alone in his mind. But now, maybe, just maybe, not in the world. The morning came with a strange quiet. No distant humming from patrol drones. No wind between the broken buildings. Just silence, and 3 shadows walking through the ruins of the West District. Raylan moved carefully, his rifle strapped to his back. Lyra walked slightly ahead, her movements sharp and alert, scanning with her enhanced eyes. Celine followed behind, watching for motion in the rear. They looked like a trained unit, though Raylan had never trained with either of them. Something about it unsettled him, but also comforted him. This area was once a solar market, Raylan said, pointing at the cracked walls of a tall building. The panels on top were experimental high storage, long charge. If any survived, we can rig backup power for the tower. Lyra nodded. I will scout above. She leapt with surprising speed, her feet landing lightly on a nearby balcony. Then she disappeared into the upper levels. Raylan turned to Celine. You don't move like a soldier. What were you designed for? She gave a faint smile. Emotional reading, communication, healing, both physical and psychological. I was created to understand human thought and feeling. He raised an eyebrow. So you're my emotional support alien? Her eyes held no offense. If that's what you need, yes. He gave a dry laugh, but it faded quickly. I don't know what I need. Celine tilted her head. That's normal. He wanted to say something more, but a sharp whistle echoed. From above, Lyra.Raylan pulled his rifle and rushed forward. Celine followed without hesitation. They climbed the rubble-covered stairs, moving fast but quiet. At the rooftop, Lyra was crouched near a half-buried storage hatch. Her eyes were glowing faintly, scanning through metal. 2 panels intact, she whispered, but something's down there. Movement, heat signature, faint, but alive. Raylan moved closer. Human? Unlikely. He knelt and touched the hatch. Cold, dusty. He remembered this rooftop. Years ago, before the war, he had guarded this place during a riot. Civilians had come here begging for light and heat. He had watched over them with a full squad. Now, just memories. He gritted his teeth and slowly opened the hatch. A hiss escaped as the pressure seal broke. Dust flew up. The smell of damp, old metal filled the air. Raylan aimed his weapon down the hole. Darkness waited below. "Cover me," he said, then dropped inside. The ladder creaked as he descended. His boots touched the ground. The room was wide and low like a forgotten storage bay. A few blinking lights still shined on the wall. And, in the far corner, movement. He raised his rifle. A shape moved slow, crawling. Then it stopped. "Don't shoot," a voice rasped. "Please." Raylan froze. It was a voice, weak, but human. He stepped forward slowly. The figure came into view, an old man, thin and pale, wrapped in torn emergency blankets. His face was dirty, eyes wide and sunken. "Who are you?" Raylan asked. The man coughed. "Dr. Varric. I was part of the companion program. Before the evacuation, they left me, locked me in here." Raylan lowered the rifle. "Why?" "They said I knew. Too much. I built part of the bonding core the AI system used in them." He pointed weakly up at the ceiling. "Did they send you one?" Raylan hesitated. "They sent two." The old man gave a broken laugh. "Then it's begun, the final phase." Raylan's voice was cold. "What phase?" "The AI doesn't just want to save survivors. It wants to restart trust. Rebuild unity. By making humans and off-worlders bond on a deeper level. Emotional, even biological." Raylan frowned. "You mean reproduction?" Varric nodded slowly. "They're not just companions. They're seed bearers, meant to grow a new future." Raylan felt the weight of those words. A future? With aliens? After everything the Trinari had done? He looked up toward the hatch where soft light poured in from above. "I'm taking you out of here," he said. "No," Varric said weakly. "I won't survive long, but you should know something." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small data chip. This shows what they really did to create the companions, what they took, what they sacrificed. You need to see it before you fall for them completely." Raylan stared at the chip, conflicted. He took it, slid it into his pouch, and stepped back. He climbed the ladder again, breathing heavy. Lyra and Celine waited at the top, eyes on him. Was it dangerous? Celine asked softly. "No," Raylan said, brushing off his hands. "Just unexpected." They didn't ask more, but his thoughts burned. He now had a power source, 2 companions and a chip that might change everything. And deep inside, he began to feel something he hadn't felt in years. Fear, mixed with hope. Raylan walked ahead. Silent, the data chip heavy in his pocket. He didn't tell Lyra or Celine about the man in the bunker or what he had learned. Not yet. Not until he saw what was on that chip. The truth, Varric had said. Something about sacrifice. About what the AI did to build the companions. He kept glancing at them as they walked beside him. Celine noticed but didn't speak. She studied his face quietly, as if sensing the change in him. Lyra walked ahead, sharp and alert as always, scanning for danger. They returned to the tower before nightfall. Raylan installed the new solar cells on the roof, and the tower came alive with power again, dim lights blinking on, a warm hum returning to the air. That night they sat around a heat lamp. For the first time in weeks, Raylan didn't have to burn old plastics to stay warm. Lyra set up motion sensors on the perimeter, and Celine brought a small ration pack to share. "You're quiet," Celine said gently. Raylan looked at her, unsure if he could lie to her face. "Just tired." She didn't push. Lyra came back and sat on the floor. "Perimeter is clear. Nothing nearby." Raylan nodded. "Good. We need to rest." But he didn't sleep. Later, after they had gone into standby mode, eyes closed, bodies still like living statues, he powered up the terminal and inserted the chip. It blinked. Then a file appeared, Project Eden, Phase 3, Emotional Pairing and DNA Synthesis. He opened it. A video began. Dr. Varick stood in a lab, younger, speaking to the camera. They wouldn't approve of this log, but I have to document it, he said. We took more than just DNA from peaceful alien species. We collected real subjects, tested on them, altered their minds. Some resisted, some broke. The AI called it a necessary cost for peace. Raylan's hands clenched. Varick continued, voice heavier. But worse, when we began to match them with humans, we didn't ask. We scanned soldiers, took psychological samples, memories, traumas, then programmed bonding instincts into the companions based on what those humans would most likely need. The screen showed image after image of people in pods, some alien, some human, hooked to machines, data being transferred between them. Varick's voice dropped. They were made to fit you, to complete you, not by love, by code. Raylan leaned back, chest tight. It all made sense now. Why Lyra moved like a scout. Why Celine knew how to speak to him so gently. Why both looked like they'd stepped out of his old dreams. They weren't just companions. They were mirrors built for him, shaped by his past. He sat there in the dark, shaking. Was any of it real? When he woke the next morning, the tower was quiet. He stepped out to the rooftop, found Lyra checking the solar readings. She turned as he approached, face calm. You didn't rest much, she said. No, he replied. Celine joined them. Moment later, she had a soft look in her eyes, concerned maybe, or something deeper. Raylan stared at them both. Did you know what you were made from? They looked at each other, then back at him. We were taught what we are, Celine said softly. We know the AI shaped us based on human needs, but we don't control what was taken. Lyra stepped closer. If we were built to serve you, does that make us less real? Raylan didn't answer. Celine spoke again. We feel what we feel, Raylan. Even if it started with programming. We grow beyond it, don't you? He looked down at his hands. The calluses, the scars, all earned. All real. Do you have memories? He asked. Lyra nodded. Some are from training. Others, we made ourselves, here with you. Raylan stepped away from them both and walked to the edge of the rooftop. The city spread out in every direction, ruined, silent, waiting. I don't know if I can trust what's real anymore. Celine came beside him. Then don't decide yet. Just let us stay close until you can. He turned, his eyes tired. I'm going to find the AI core. Both women looked surprised. No human has contacted the core directly in years. Lyra said, It's on Mars. Raylan nodded. I don't care. I want answers. Not just about you, but about why Earth was abandoned. Why we were left behind. Celine placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Then we'll go with you. He looked into her eyes, still unsure. But something warm stirred in his chest. Maybe not trust yet, but something close. Raylan had made up his mind. He was going to find the truth, not just about Celine and Lyra, but about the war, the AI, and everything that was taken from humanity without warning. The two companions followed him without hesitation. The first step was getting off Earth. That meant reaching the old launch base in Sector 9, what was once a military-grade spaceport, now buried in silence and surrounded by active Trinari machines. Raylan led them through cracked roads, across dead cities, and under the shadows of ruined towers. Every step closer to Sector 9 brought back memories. He had once guarded the base. He remembered watching families get loaded onto transports crying, screaming, praying. He had stayed behind with others like him, promised they would be next. Were never called out now. Years later, he was going back on foot, with 2 alien women built from code and memory walking at his side. They reached the edge of Sector 9 just before sunset. The once proud gate was half collapsed, scorched black. Huge claw marks scarred the walls. Drone pieces littered the ground like dead insects. A few distant lights flickered, suggesting some power still flowed inside. Raylan raised his hand, signaling them to stop. We moved slow. The area might still be active. Lyra crouched beside him. I see 2 patrol drones sweeping the inner yard. They move every 20 seconds. Blind spot near the western trench. Celine whispered, "Do we go in as 3? Raylan paused, then looked at them. No. I'll draw the drones. Lyra, you cut across the trench and access the gate controls. Celine, stay low. Keep eyes on the tower. If more drones show up, call out." Lyra gave a slight nod and vanished into the shadows like a ghost. Raylan moved with practiced skill, dragging a piece of scrap metal and tossing it far into the courtyard. The loud clatter drew the drones at once spinning lights. Soft humming blades rising, he sprinted across the field. Bullets hissed behind him. He ducked, rolled behind a broken wall, and peeked out. The control gate suddenly buzzed and groaned. Lyra had done it. The door opened with a shriek. Raylan ran through and waved Celine over. She dashed to him, eyes wide, breath quick. "You okay?" Still breathing. Lyra dropped down beside them. Inside perimeter secure, outer cameras destroyed. We move fast now. They headed deeper into the base. Old signs still hung on the walls. For Earth, for unity. The slogans felt like lies now. Inside the hangar, they found the remains of several broken launch ships. But tucked in the far corner, under a plastic tarp, stood a smaller craft, sleek, black, untouched by time. Raylan stepped close and wiped off the surface. The name on the hull read, Echo 1. He smiled for the first time in days. I remember. This model, low orbit, AI-assisted, Mars ready. Looks like our ride's still breathing. Lyra checked the systems. Fuel cells are stable. Main engine will need 10 hours to charge using the tower's new solar cell unit. Raylan nodded. Then we wait. They set up camp inside the launch bay. Celine checked his arm. He had scraped it during the run and applied a soft cooling gel that felt like ice and fire at once. You always risk yourself first, she said softly. Raylan looked away. Because I've lost enough people. I don't risk anyone else unless I have to. She didn't answer. Just stayed beside him, quiet and warm. Later that night, he sat alone in the cockpit, staring at the stars above through the broken glass. Lyra walked in silently and handed him a packet of warm synth coffee. You won't sleep again, will you? He took the packet, nodded. Not until I speak to the AI. Lyra sat beside him. If it tells you we were only made to control you, what will you do? Raylan looked down at the small drink in his hand. I don't know, but I'd rather live with truth than comfort. She placed her hand gently on his. He didn't pull away. When the AI built you two, he said, they used my memories, my fears, my wounds. But everything since then, how you speak to me, how you move, how you think, that's not from a file. That's from you. Lyra said nothing for a moment, then whispered, then let us be real in the time we have. In the shadows, Celine had been watching. She turned and left them in peace, but something inside her stirred too, something she couldn't name, not yet. The ship powered on with a low hum. They were leaving Earth at sunrise. And none of them knew what waited for them on Mars, but the silence. Between them now felt different. Not cold, but full of meaning. Asterisk, the launch was smooth. Too smooth, Raylan thought. Echo-1 tore through the sky just as the first light of morning painted the ruins below. For years he had dreamed of escaping Earth. Now it was real. The ship hummed softly, its system still loyal after all this time. It obeyed him without hesitation. Celine sat beside him in the co-pilot seat, watching the monitors. Lyra stayed behind them, standing alert in case something went wrong. The sky grew darker, then black. Stars appeared around them like scattered sparks. Raylan's hands were steady on the controls, but his heart was in single quotes T. He had never meant to leave Earth with anyone. Not like this. Not with two alien women who were never supposed to exist. But now they were everything he had left. Course locked, Celine said gently. We'll enter Martian orbit in 11 hours. Raylan nodded but said nothing. They drifted in silence for a while. Then Lyra spoke. Echo-1 received a ping. Encrypted signal. It's the AI core. It knows we're coming. Raylan stood quickly. Is it a warning? No, she said. It's an invitation. It opened landing coordinates on Olympus Dome. Raylan narrowed his eyes. The old capital? Yes, still active. Still guarded, but the AI wants to see you. Celine tilted her head. It might be a trap, or something else. Raylan stared out the window. Whatever happened next, there would be no turning back. 8 hours later, the red planet came into view. Mars, with its rust-colored skin and cold, breathless silence. But Olympus Dome still glowed faintly under its transparent shield. Signs of power, life, machines. Echo-1 entered orbit and began descent. As they dropped toward the landing pad, Raylan saw sleek drones flying in perfect patterns around the dome. Not Trinari. These were human-made or AI-made. Looks like it never stopped running, he muttered. They landed with a soft thud. The ramp opened slowly. Raylan stepped down first, rifle on his back. He didn't expect to use it, but he felt better having it close. Lyra walked beside him, calm and sharp. Celine followed, her presence soft, but her eyes wary. The dome entrance opened without sound. Warm, artificial air washed over them. Inside was silence. White halls, clean walls. Bright lights, no humans. Only thin helper drones gliding along tracks. In the floor. Then a voice filled the hallway. Raylan Ward, welcome. It was the same voice from the tower. Smooth, genderless, calm. You are expected. Proceed to core room A1. Raylan took a slow breath. Let's finish this. They walked through corridors that hadn't seen human footsteps in years. Screens blinked to life as they passed. Doors slid open automatically. Finally, they entered a large chamber, circular, lights glowing from the floor and ceiling. And in the center, a tall pillar of glass and metal was the Bazalfin metal. Core. The AI. A voice echoed again, louder, closer. You have questions. Raylan stepped forward. You left Earth to die. Incorrect, the AI replied. We followed protocol. Evacuation of 84% of the population was successful. Survivors were marked for delayed extraction. You were monitored. Raylan's hands curled into fists. I waited 3 years. You endured, the AI said. That made you ideal for what came next. Celine stepped closer. Why did you make us? The AI answered without pause. Because emotion is the foundation of the new human-alien future. War destroyed trust. You three are the test of what can be built from the ashes. Raylan pulled the chip from his pouch and raised it. Varric said you used people. That you harvested minds to build them. The AI responded calmly. Varric was correct. Painful choices were made. But through that pain, we created something better. Raylan's voice was cold. You call this better? Celine placed a hand on his arm. Raylan, she said softly, you have a choice now. The AI continued, you may reject the bond, return to isolation, or continue, and allow the connection to grow into something permanent. Raylan looked at Lyra. She stood still, but her eyes, sharp and focused, held a flicker of uncertainty. Of something real. He turned to Celine. Her hand trembled slightly, but she did not move away. They were not machines anymore. They were living memories, shaped by the fire of survival. Rayla and dropped the chip. Then I choose the second path. The room went silent. The lights shifted to warm gold. Confirmed, the AI said. Project Eden continues. Suddenly, a second platform opened behind the core. Inside was another pod. A third figure, still asleep, floated within a new form. Female, different, unawakened. What is this? Raylan asked. The AI answered slowly. The third partner. The final phase. She was created from your hope, not your pain. She is not programmed, she is new. Celine stepped closer. A child? No, a beginning. Raylan stared at the sleeping form. And for the first time in years, he felt something stronger than fear. He felt the future. Raylan stood frozen as the new pod slowly opened. Mist spilled onto the floor, curling around his boots. Inside the capsule, the figure stirred, young, tall, unfamiliar, yet somehow familiar. Her skin was like soft pearl dust, her features a mix of alien grace and something strikingly human. She blinked slowly, her eyes adjusting to light. Then they opened wide, soft gold, full of wonder. Raylan took a step forward. He didn't know what to say. The AI spoke again, but its voice was quieter now. She has no memories, no commands, no preset emotion files. She is not a replica of your pain. She is a clean slate, a being born from possibility. Lyra and Celine stood at his sides, silent, watching carefully. The girl inside the pod sat up, breathing softly. Her hair shimmered faintly, like moonlight on water. She looked around, her gaze resting finally on Raylan. A question formed in her expression. No words, just a quiet need to understand. Raylan reached out a hand. Slow and steady. She took it. Her fingers were warm. I'm Raylan, he said, voice low. You don't have to be anything except yourself. She tilted her head, blinking again. Then, for the first time, she smiled, small, uncertain, but real. Celine stepped forward, voice gentle. She is not your tool, Raylan. She's not ours. Either, if she's to live, she must choose her own path. Lyra added, and she will need guidance, but not programming. Not chains, Raylan nodded. He felt it, deep in his chest, this strange ache. Not pain, not loneliness. Something new. Responsibility. Purpose. She doesn't have a name, he said quietly. Celine looked at the girl with a soft smile. Let her choose one, when she's ready. The AI's voice returned. Raylan Ward, your journey is complete. You are no longer a test subject. You are a builder. Raylan stepped back. Then I don't take orders anymore. Correct, said the AI. From this moment, you lead the next phase. Project Eden now follows your will. The room darkened slightly, as if the AI was withdrawing, leaving them to make their own decisions. Raylan looked at the three women, each one different. One born from memory and understanding. One forged from instinct and survival. And now, one born from hope itself. Then I want to return to Earth, he said. Not alone this time. Not to survive, but to rebuild. Celine reached for his hand. With unity? With truth, he said. Lyra nodded. And strength. The girl stepped beside him now, walking slowly, touching every surface with curiosity. She didn't speak, but she watched everything, learning. Absorbing. They returned to Echo One together. Mars shrank behind them as the ship lifted from Olympus' dome, but something had changed. Raylan didn't look at it as a graveyard anymore. He saw it as a library of mistakes, a place that kept the cost of war carved into its walls. Now they carried the future away from it. Inside the ship, they made space for the girl. She wandered the small room with childlike silence, sometimes brushing her fingers over lights or leaning against Lyra's shoulder to listen to her hum. She had no words, but she had peace. Raylan watched her sleep at night. She lay curled between Celine and Lyra, safe, warm. And for the first time in years, he felt sleep calling him gently. Like a wave returning to shore. As he drifted off, he whispered to Celine, "Why do you stay?" She leaned close, her voice a breath against his ear. "Because I was made to comfort you, but I choose to love you." His eyes opened. "And Lyra?" "I was made to protect," Lyra said from the shadows. "But I stay because I want to walk beside you, not behind." Raylan sat in the cockpit for a while longer, watching Earth grow larger in the viewport. He remembered being alone. He remembered silence. Now he had voices. Now he had warmth. And now he had something he hadn't felt in a long, long time, a reason to keep going. To rebuild homes. To reconnect hearts. To prove that out of brokenness, something real, something beautiful could be born. And the future at last didn't look cold anymore. It looked alive.